Every time I close my eyes, I see in front of me.
Let's embark on a journey of knowledge and discovery. Let's learn from the extraordinary lives of the greatest in the art of living.
The art of living.
Join the conversation with hosts Dr. Wael Harasi and Dr. Lamia Al-Haj.
Every day.
From Sunday to Thursday.
From 2:40 to 3:40 p.m.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear listeners, I salute you with salutation of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to the art of living. With me, Wael Al-Harasi.
And Lamia Al-Haj.
Today's topic, dear listeners, is a very interesting one, and a very interesting guest as well. With us is about planning your life. It's life planning or planning your life, whatever you want to call it. Today is tough. Yeah. So get your acts together and call us on 24602058. That's 24602058. Lamia, do you plan everything you do in life, or do you just go spontaneously about things?
Well, I think you asked this question deliberately because you know the answer. And that's because I do plan. I do have the habit of planning extensively and intensively things in my life. And I must say that I used to plan a lot of details until I achieved one of which I considered one of the big goals in my life, which is getting my PhD. The planning then reduced a little bit because I was unclear of my goals. But once that was clear again, then I went back to the habit of planning. A good example of planning, Wael, is this FM show. You can see the difference between my notes and your notes. Yours is a 4-line, I guess, four words bullet point, and I have 2 pages of color coordinated points. So different personalities, different perspectives of planning. Interesting topic today, and I would like to ask the listeners to bring their A4 papers and pens. Maybe they'll get I'm sure they're going to get very valuable points today to learn about planning. What do you think, Wael? That's part of planning for the show.
I think before going to planning, we need to appreciate there are different personalities, as you said.
Yes.
There is the spontaneous person who would like to go about things and take risks, and there is you.
You make it sound like something bad.
Well, I do plan, but I would like to say that my life, I go about my life is like a candy floss. Yeah. Very structured, very rigid from the center, and then all, it's all mess around, but it's around something that is very solid.
Maybe let's ask our guest then to decide on which planning should be applied, or maybe both of them should be applied with a bit of tweaking.
Yes, for that, I think we need to welcome. It's just about time to welcome our guest, Your Excellency Talal bin Sulaiman Al-Rahbi, the Deputy Director General or Deputy Secretary General of the Supreme Council for Planning. His Excellency Talal was Director of Product Development and Market Intelligence at Omantel for over 2 years, and then Deputy CEO for Operations in the Information Technology Authority for 5 years, over 5 years, almost 6 years, before he was appointed and entrusted by His Majesty to be the Deputy Secretary General for Supreme Council. So, Your Excellency, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for hosting me in your interesting show.
You're welcome. It's the honor is ours, and it's our pleasure to have you here. You do this is your bread and butter, planning. And could you please tell us a little bit about what you do in terms of planning for Oman, and how important is it to actually plan?
Thank you for this question, and I think it's good we start this casual conversation about the Supreme Council for Planning, because usually when invited to speak about the council or planning in Oman, it's a very serious topic, and people always have a lot of interesting questions, comments, and complaints. And as you know, planning is one of those topics that people always have an opinion about, sometimes positive, and a lot of times negative, which is something we understand. Also, in our time of internet and social media, the topics about planning becomes pretty much a public discussion. Somebody can oppose a topic, and everybody will talk about it, and everybody will pitch in. And myself, I follow some of these topics in addition to reading the reports and some suggestions. And some of them comes directly or it comes through meetings. But if we talk about the Supreme Council for Planning, it's good maybe without boring or making people bored of the topic, try to just speak a little bit about it. And I will allow you to ask the questions better. So I will not give a lecture now on the radio.
Not at all. It's very interesting what you said, that a lot of people always have an opinion to say. Those opinions come when they talk about other people's plans or planning for other things. If you dig deeper into some of their lives, you see that they lack everything and anything to do with planning. So to start with, what is it, the importance of planning? Why is planning important? On a personal level, which we would like to focus on today's show, is planning on a personal level, planning our lives, planning, developing ourselves towards achieving our goals. But why is planning important?
Okay. I think planning is a key element in the life of nations and the life of a human being. Even if you start from religion, for example. Even religion, all the heavenly religion, they speak about there will be a hereafter, and then there is a judgment day, and you need to plan. And you planning, what you need to do is you need to do the good deeds, you live a good life, so you'll have a good ending. So that will start also the planning. And I think religion also calls for positive planning, meaning you should aspire for higher places. And that's why it's usually mention heaven or mention paradise, which is a high place and something ultimate. And I think it's a very good call by religion, because it means when you plan or when you hope or when you have a goal, you shouldn't plan on a mediocre level. You shouldn't accept something simple or easy.
Yeah.
You should aim higher. And the famous saying, if you want to hit the stars, aim for the moon. So you try to hit the bigger, so at least you hit something. So that's with the religion. With nations, nowadays, I think I don't know any country without planning. Even those mature countries, the Western world, which free economy, still the government have a plan, they have a budget, and they have targets they want to achieve. In developing countries, and Oman in a very mature level of development, works on a 5-year plan, which is the national planning. And Oman is one of the leading in the Middle East and also in the GCC when it comes to planning. The first 5-year plan started in 1976. And the first long-term objectives and planning actually started in 1970, which was called the long-term objectives to achieve. After that also, so since 1976, we've been working on a 5-year plan. Now we are the last year, 2015, the last year of the number 8 5-year plan. And we are about to enter the 9th plan. And Oman is, again, to repeat that, is one of the leading in doing planning. For the vision, Oman also was the first country to develop a vision. It was Vision 2020, what we want Oman to be when we reach 2020. And I will come, I'm sure people already listening to this, they said, oh, how far we reach on that one. I will come to that. And now we are developing, and it was announced, the directives of His Majesty to draft Vision 2040. Of course, when you do planning, you have a lot of objectives, and those objectives you put it into plans, and then annual plans, and then there's other agencies to implement those plans, and you follow and monitor these plans. When Harvard professors were here, they shocked me actually by the percentage they said. They said, if I remember the percentage, 20% of planning, national planning, are achieved only.
Is it on Oman or worldwide?
No, worldwide.
Worldwide.
The average of meeting plans or meeting the objective plan are 20%. However, it varies between priorities and higher priorities and less priorities. And it changed. For example, for Oman, the first priorities were education and healthcare. And that's why people realized that there was the development of schools, hospitals, clinics, health centers. And higher education came later as well.
Yes.
And it changed, yeah.
Is it so because the initial objective set or targets were overambitious, that by the end of the term only 20%, or is it because of external reasons?
Factors.
There is a lot of factors. The first lesson about planning, you always know there is circumstances will prevent you from achieving certain goals.
Yeah.
And in sophisticated planning, and people who work on planning, they know there is risks, how you mitigate those risks. You also build on the assumptions of those plans, of what will impact those plans, and you try to work on it. However, when you come about national planning, there is a lot of circumstances it works. For example, Oman and the GCC, they depend on oil. Oil have the biggest percentage when it comes to the income of the government, and also almost over half of the GDP. So when oil prices go down, which is very difficult to anticipate, it impacts planning. People say we should diversify the economy, which is true, we all agree, and all oil-producing countries have this big challenge of a dominant economy by oil and gas. Oman is not unique. The GCC, you have countries all the way from Russia all the way to Venezuela impacted by what happens. Yes. However, Oman, I think, should be also one of the leading countries to diversify the economy. We have a lot of potentials. The 5-year plan, since Oman, actually, I found out the first literature to talk about diversifying the economy from oil, the first one started in Oman, actually, in the 1970s. And I think 1976, the first literature to say our plans should work on diversifying the economy. We are have not reached that, but I hope that we work hard through the Supreme Council and the people to do it.
Thank you very much for that. So to summarize that, I think planning is really critical and crucial for any progression or development. Yeah, if you want to develop, you want to progress, you want to shift from one state to another state, then planning is important. If we go to the social aspect of planning, planning has a lot of aspects, social aspects, and plays a major role in shaping people's lives. Before we go into planning for people's lives, let's talk a little bit on the effect of urban planning on how we lead our lives, effect of how we design our homes, because this is what we do. We always build our houses. Every new family would build a house, would plan, but there is very little attention given to how will that house be a home? How will it bring us together? So the question would be, does urban planning or architecture help in planning our lives?
Of course. When it comes to urban planning, city planning, or even neighborhood planning, providing a small park, sidewalk, all these small things are very key to the well-being of the residents of that neighborhood, for their family, for their children. When it comes to personal, Oman, alhamdulillah, the latest statistic, maybe you saw it last week, over 83% of Omani families, they own their home, which is a very high percentage worldwide, alhamdulillah. And also, if you drive around in Muscat, or if you drive outside Muscat, you start to notice that the number of villas, meaning big houses, Omanis tend to build big houses because the size of the family in Oman, between 7 to 8, the dependency. So that's a big size of a family. That's why we build big houses. However, the new trend now, you see smaller families, the newer generation, and they having less kids. They try to focus on a smaller number of children. However, the planning on the houses still do not meet the long-term planning. For example, some people build a huge house. They invest a lot of money. They borrow a lot of money to build this huge house. They have not planned when their kids will graduate from high school, how many of them will stay with them, how many of them will go off to other places. And sometimes they find themselves, I find people who, when I was looking for a house to rent a few years ago, I said, why are you renting your own house? He said, well, all the kids are in college or they got married, and now me and my wife, and we feel the house is too big for us to stay in. So if you plan that by the time you retire, you want your bills actually to be less. So maybe you plan a smaller house. That's not for everybody. People plan, but at least you should have a target that if you want your kids to live next to you, then you leave room for them to build a villa, or you build twin villa if it's allowed. If not, then maybe you minimize the house, or you plan it in which, if you're planning to have your kids starting up with you and then until they own their own house, then you plan to have the house with wings or smaller suites, so at least they will have some privacy. So this is few things that very key when it comes to family planning.
Also, when you plan a city and you would like to have a quality life, you have the sidewalks, you have tree plantations. This will encourage people to have a healthier life, a more social life. I remember that I watched a show a while ago on the social effects of the slums in India, in Bombay. And those slums, which has millions living in them, actually are designed by those poor people, to meet their social life. So there were lessons for the urban planners, and the person who was presenting the show was an architect himself. There were some squares, and he said, "Look at these squares. You have 4 generations of people living together." So having those areas is very important. I think we have a caller.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam to Lamia, to Wael, and the guest speaker.
Alaikum assalam.
Shaheen, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I would like to answer Brother Wael's question about why planning is important.
Yes, please go ahead.
In order to answer that question, I think one needs to know a few WH questions in order to know why planning is important.
Yeah.
And some of these questions are what, when, how, and so on. What do I have to plan? Why do I have to plan? What should I be doing with this plan? How important is this plan? If some of these questions are answered, and then we know that planning is definitely important. If one can have planning for a day, for a week, for a month, and so on, and if for some reason something has gone wrong somewhere, the person can then reflect back upon where he has gone wrong, how can he rectify that, so that in the long run, when he or she has to make a longer term plan, say of a year or more than that, could be 5 or much more than that, then they have learned from their mistakes and experiences not to repeat the mistakes that they would have done while planning.
Yes.
This is only a very worldly or a secular perspective that I am sharing with you. But if one has to look at the religious perspective in terms of planning, then I think you would agree with me that the creation of this universe did not just come out of nothing. There is definitely a lot of planning that has gone into this, and a whole lot of perfection is there because of planning. So if one could just see the creation around us and see how well it has been planned for us as humans to use it, then I'm sure we can bring about a very good plan in our everyday life that will make our life very successful and easy to lead.
Thank you very much, Ahim. Thank you so much for your contribution, and please stay tuned and we'll continue discussing your points, inshallah. I think it was a nice way to get to introduce the second point that we want to discuss, which is planning our personal life. I think maybe the general. First, would like to remind our listeners that you can call us on 24602058. That's 24602058. So, if I gather this correctly, then planning in general term means it's a process of thinking and organizing our goals and then our activities needed to achieve that goal. So, first of all, we need to have a goal. And then we need to plan our activities in order to reach that goal. I think this applies to any sort of planning, whether it is a country or urban planning or family planning. So if we're going to talk about personal life planning, Your Excellency, can you describe, let's call it effective steps in creating your personal life plan?
Okay. Now we come into the interesting topic. We move on from the government and the boring discussions. We come to personal planning, and I will consider myself a student in this field. And I've been reading about this for a long time, and I still read on it. Either it comes with national planning or personal development and self-improvement. And I think the first lesson that I always I try to remind myself, because we caught up with so many things to do, is nothing will happen unless you create the space for it to happen. A lot of things we fail to achieve because we never give it space, meaning time. And coming to the objectives or where we want to be, it is very simple to say, I wanted to reach that goal, or you said, I want to be rich, or you say, I want to get this certificate, or I want to get married, or I want to have a house. All these goals are very easy to say. What people miss about the goals, and also not only the planning, actually there is something lost in between what I want and planning, which people tend to forget about, which is hard work.
Yes.
Hard work, it's the key to achieving any plan you will have. I always repeat this. I said, if you read the story of successful people, if you know people who are successful around you, you know one key thing about what they do. They are hard-working people. They don't waste a minute. And before I come to the show, you said also the show, you remember some of the teaching of Sheikh Khalfan. Actually, Sheikh Khalfan, he used to teach a lot on planning and how you set your goals. But one key thing he used to teach, and he used to practice himself, which is you need to work at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people who know him and who know of him, they know because of his contribution. You say he has his own business. He does lectures. He does social activities.
Yeah.
He volunteers. He writes books.
Yes.
He have audio taped recording of lessons. He participates in the media. He's a member. He used to be a member of the state council. And also he's a father, a family person. Yeah. And he's a friend, because I know a lot of people who call him, Sheikh Khalfan, I want your advice.
Yeah.
And he goes and he spends time with people, advising on personal, although he's busy. So if you know that's the life of that person, you always have this question mark, when he has the time for that.
Yeah.
So there is two things pops to your mind. First, planning. He has good planning. But in addition to that, he really works hard.
Yeah.
Really works hard every minute of the day.
So if we say a goal without a plan and hard work is just a wish. So you can say that I want to do this and I want to be here. But if you don't plan it and work hard for it, then it's just going to be a wish. And it will never be achieved.
A plan is nothing without an action plan. Yeah, you need to act upon it. Otherwise, the plan is nothing. It's worthless.
I call it the wish list.
The wish
wish list.
Yeah, not the bucket list.
And they also say that what's that?
You don't know the bucket list?
No.
Watch the movie.
And they also say that you either set your own plans or somebody else will set your plans for you.
Yes.
When you're sitting there, you don't have any plans, then people start taking control over your life and make plans for you.
True, especially when you're very busy at life. There are certain virtues of planning. But after this call, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hello.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Your voice is not clear.
Let me try. Assalamu alaikum. Is this Rahma?
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, fine. How are you?
It's good to hear your voice again. Alhamdulillah, very well. What do you have for us today, Rahma?
I just want to answer your question. You asked at the beginning of the show about, are you planning in your life? Yes, I'm obsessed regarding planning.
Okay, join the club. So you're obsessed with planning. What kind of aspects of your life do you plan?
Of course, number one is reading.
Yes.
For example, at the beginning of each year, I have to plan about my physical activities, knowledge, plus religious things.
Yes. So you have a yearly plan where you break them down to spiritual, academic, social, and then based on each aspect of that life, then you will put your plans for the whole year?
Yeah.
All right. Now, how does that work for you, Rahma?
Actually, it works but the problem with me, I'm very much obsessed about it.
Rahma, do you have the radio on your end? Because your voice is very low. Do you mind switching off the radio from your side, please?
No, actually, I'm away from the radio.
Oh, okay. All right, because your voice is quite low. If you can try to raise your voice, please. So you said that so it's working well for you, right? The yearly planning.
Yeah, but I think sometimes we have to skip planning, just doing things unplanned, because it will teach us, I think, sometimes in some cases, much more than planning does.
Can you give us an example of that, Rahma, just to clarify the point to the audience?
Hello?
Yes, Rahma, can you give us an example of how you think that sometimes not planning is a better way of going about things? Can you give us an example?
For example, you are doing something just suddenly.
Ah, yes, okay, spontaneous. All right.
Without planning for it before.
Yeah.
So at that time, it will teach you that how to face that situation. It will teach you. It will make you a wiser person.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Thank you, Rahma. That point is very clear, and actually, we are going to discuss that point in the next. So please do stay tuned, and we're going to talk about how much details do we need to have in our plan, and can we actually divert from our plans for a better cause. So please do stay tuned with us, and we will discuss that point in just a minute. Thank you for your call. So, Your Excellency, Rahma's point was an intriguing one. She said she is obsessed with planning. She has yearly plans where she, has criteria on self-development and different aspects of her life. But sometimes she believes that not planning is the best way, because then she learns from her experiences. What would you say? How much detail should we have in our plans? And should we be flexible?
Of course, planning is about flexibility as well. And that's why we have brains. Because if you go on a plan that you think it leading you nowhere, that's where you should adapt. Mm-hmm. And the famous saying, survival is not for the strongest, it's the fittest, or the one who's more able to adapt. But let's make this topic very simple. I think, because I speak to many people, and I learn from a lot of people actually who I met throughout my life and who always advise me and I learn from. And I would like to share this with people also. There is two types of people I usually meet. Either there are some people who are very sophisticated. They really have that scheduling and they go about it and they run their tasks and they have a list of things to do. And they usually get frustrated if things don't fall into their own planning. And there's people who go by the day. When I say by the day, I don't mean they don't have planning at all, but they want to achieve certain tasks,
yep,
or certain things for the week or the month or so forth. So let's make it very simple. I always tell people that if you don't know what you're doing tomorrow, then somebody else will set your schedule for you.
Exactly.
Your calendar doesn't mean you always have your calendar full, because you should also leave time for people around you, especially your family, your loved ones. And my wife usually complains that stop putting me on the calendar. I'm not an item on the calendar, meaning it's a relationship. So it's true, because you try to fit things in your life. And the challenge people face when it comes to planning, they push the important things to the urgent matters. And usually urgent matter, that would dominate everybody's life. Yeah. And that is normal, because sometimes this urgent matter are emergency. However, I always say that at least if you don't have for the month, for the year, for the week, at least for the next day, even if you don't have for the next day, at least when you start your day, at least write 2-3 things you want to achieve. Because by the end of the day, even if you achieve one of those 3-4 things, that in itself is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's a starting point. And when you taste the value of achieving one thing you really plan to do that day, you will have an appetite to plan for the next day. And if you achieve certain tasks of the next day, it will increase your appetite and your self-esteem to believe in the value of planning. You'll start even planning for at least a week.
Yeah.
So what to say is, why people get frustrated, and I always tell these people that there is Pareto have this principle, people know it by 80-20, which says 20% of the efforts of a company, that's what brings them, or their product brings them 80% of the income. And now this 80-20 applies to people's life as well. Even in income, they say 20% of your efforts, what brings you 80% of your earnings.
It's interesting.
If you look into what you do in activities in your work or your business, that what is as a theory been developed. So even when it comes to your planning, there are certain things you do. Maybe it's 20% of your time, but that's what gives you the biggest impact.
So this brings us to the point of prioritizing. Maybe, if when we plan, we need to prioritize what will give us the maximum benefit. So if you have somebody with me with lots of agenda and so many, to-do lists, maybe we should start with the most important that will have a bigger impact. Not the easiest tasks, but maybe the most important tasks.
I thank you for that question, because that is a key thing into writing the task. Because now we're not talking about long-term planning, because we'll come to the objective setting. Let's talk about task writing.
Yes.
With the technology, with the phones, every phone has tasks and notes and all the
to-do list.
And also you have a pen and everything. So where people get frustrated or they fail to achieve, first of all, they have it in their head. They want to achieve lots of things. They get stressed, they will forget. And then they get stressed even if the day goes by, they haven't even done one of the things on that list. So the advice is, first of all, write down what you need to achieve. Before you think what is important, list them. Even if it's for one day, just list the things you want to achieve. From there, you should circle or put a star or something or value to the thing that you think is important. For example, you said, I need to exercise today. I didn't exercise yesterday or the day before yesterday. I need to do an exercise today. You put that as an important thing.
Yeah.
Then you talk about other important things, then you put it. Out of the 10 things you write, if you focus on 3 things to get done that day, it's better than you get stressed over 10 things, nothing get done. Because by the end of the day, if you achieve at least 1 or 2, you feel good that at least you achieved what you focused on. It will help you for the next day.
This is really, I wish I can think that way, because for me, I put all the tasks, which are normally a lot, and I get disappointed even if one of them is not achieved. I want all of them to be achieved.
I think a good way is that when you plan for a week, it's quite a lot to write down for a week. But if you have a plan for a week, that plan will need a to-do list on a daily basis. So you need to break it down. What I do every morning at the office when I arrive, I have a special notepad, and that would be my to-do list for the day. I don't write my plan. I have my plan, my weekly plan, what I want to achieve during that week. But when I enter the office, I write down my to-do list for the day. This is, I want to call so-and-so, I want to follow up so-and-so, start writing up this and do that. And the joy of ticking them one by one, and before you know it, it's done. You have the rest of the day to do things that is like a bonus.
It's true, and that's that's what I want to comment on what Lamia said about if you feel that your list you have not achieved one, you get frustrated. Actually, imagine your frustration if you haven't achieved any. So
Not an option.
It's true. Actually, you compare it to achieving none or at least 20% of what you plan. Your frustration would be less if you at least think.
That's true.
Also, if you mark that you achieved the most important one on your list, you'll feel good that at least the most important thing got done, which will give you motivation to continue. And what you said about the week, there's another tip I learned recently. What we do about the week, we usually think of a week as 7 days, or a working week, 5 days. And what we do, we try to plan for the 5 working days. And for the 7 days, we try to plan for the 7 days. And now, one of the tips I learned recently, it's do not take the same number and plan for it. For example, for the week, if you have the 3 main things you want to achieve, divide it onto the week. Because if you don't achieve it a certain day of the week, at least you have the last day of the week to catch up.
Okay.
And even the 7 days, always don't take it as 7 days. Take it at least 5 days. And try to, if you achieve it in 5 days, then the 2 days is bonus for you to enhance what you already done. And that's what all of us fail, which we fill that calendar of things to do and tasks to do. And then we get by the 3rd day of the week getting frustrated that we already have Sunday and Monday work or tasks moved to us today. So we feel, oh, the week is about to finish. We have not catch up. So
So
you
then-
need to
yeah.
leave room for.
So the tip here, very important tip, even this is a very great advice for me. So I thank you for that, because I don't tend to put that contingency, and it tends to be full, and then you end up with frustration and disappointment. So next time I do my planning, inshallah, and all the listeners out there who suffer from the same problem, is the tip here or the advice is to add some contingency or some time to catch up with the unfinished tasks.
I think this is a concept using normally when you projects manage, and in any plan you would add a float. Yeah, it's allowing some time to finish late without affecting something else. And if you bring that concept of float into our personal lives, we'll be able to do quite a lot. Yeah, and it is this one that Your Excellency have mentioned. We need to add it. It will be bonus if you finish it early. If you don't, then it will not affect anything else.
Exactly.
One word, very interestingly, we are talking about planning, and one word probably we've used more than planning: frustration. Planning is all about three things. Correct me if I'm wrong. One is clarity. Secondly is balance, and third is peace of mind. Yeah, when you have clarity, then things would be easy. When you have planning will help you balance that work and family time, which we initially talked about Sheikh Al-Fan, how he managed by planning to balance his personal life, his as a father, as a husband, as a friend, and as a man of state. Yeah, but peace of mind, you reach peace of mind. How can we really balance this? That planning gives you peace of mind, but at the same time, the most word that we have used so far is frustration.
Yeah, because usually frustration is associated with planning. The reason, we as human, we aspire for the best. We always, even if you achieve what you want more. You want to get to the next level.
Yes.
Even if you meet your target, you say yes, and then you move on. And that's our human beings. Even for the nation, people frustrated with planning, because sometimes they don't see the planning happening. So the whole nation gets frustrated with planning. It comes to the personal level as well. And if we use it positively, I think one of the things that creates stress and allow little room for peace of mind, one of it, when you have your head full of things to do.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the art of writing. And you have two things. People sometimes don't sleep at night because they're thinking of a lot of things not done,
Yeah.
or worrying, and that keeps them late. And usually the best thing to do, which a habit I learned years ago, the reason I said my personal experience, because I don't like to lecture. I'm not saying I'm expert in this. I'm just sharing with people some personal tips that worked with me, might not work. People might work. That when I write them down, I feel released.
Yes.
I feel the peace come because you already have them down somewhere. So when you wake up, you can go and do something about it.
You know where to start at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
You offload them. Yeah.
You
them
upload
on-
them. It's very, yes, this is a perfect word. You upload it, and then you feel better that you at least have them somewhere. That helps you sleep, by the way.
Yeah.
Second, I like this quote by
صحن
somebody.
عيش مع سعادتك صحن عيش. That helps you to sleep as well.
A plate of rice.
A
Yeah,
plate
big
of
plate
rice.
of rice.
A
Plan
good
for that.
plate of biryani will help you sleep.
Oh yeah, our maybe friends and listeners who are not Omani, who experienced the first big rice might remember this. But it's true, they get amazed by how the rice looks. It's like a mountain for one person.
And what a perfect time to talk about a plate of rice now. We are
Fasting.
I think you are hungry.
I'm definitely am. And to all our hungry listeners there, please do call us on 24602058. That's 24602058. One point mentioned by Rahma Lamia, when she mentioned, when do we need to shift from being spontaneity,
Yeah.
into planning? I don't think it's a matter of shifting. I think it's a mixture of both. Because, as Your Excellency said, planning is always associated with frustration, probably for the wrong reasons. It's to do with logistics. It's more associated with logistics and associated with discipline. People who are so disciplined, they like to plan. And spontaneity is more about trust. Yeah, people who trust is more about intuition. And it's more also
Living the
about,
moment.
yes, living the moment and about taking risk. When you look at spontaneity, we don't want people to be completely spontaneous, but it's not our choice. People naturally spontaneous, like you have people who are naturally planning, like to plan. Merging both and having the two skills is important. How important do you think for us to incorporate intuition, which is a trait more associated with spontaneity?
No, I think being what you say, the intuition.
Yeah.
You are far beyond my level, so I'll leave that. But let me come to discipline.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
I like what you said about discipline. And when we talk about discipline, then we'll move on and we'll reach the intuition and how you aspire also, and how some people really have that good way of anticipating where they should go or how they should achieve it. Discipline is a key thing to planning. And everybody who admires certain people, they said, I like that person. They really have discipline.
Mm-hmm.
They say what they want to do. They have discipline with food, eating habits. They're disciplined with exercise. They're disciplined with work. They're disciplined with their family. People admire this. But to say this is a human nature also, that you can develop discipline. And where you feel you are not disciplined is when you think you plan something and you don't achieve it, then you think you are not disciplined. Actually, let me give a little hope for those who kind of feel desperate about it. And this is a discussion with many people, I said, about the small changes, big impact. Because human beings, we like incentives,
Yes.
and we also like to be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
However, we like to be appreciated from others, but we do not see within ourselves to appreciate ourselves.
Yeah.
So one thing, in many literature, they said, if you have a big plan or big objective and you achieve it, treat yourself.
Yeah.
Treat it, whatever the treats you like to do, treat yourself. Because yourself also, you need to, what I call, treat it good.
Mm-hmm.
You should attain to yourself. So when it comes about the small changes you do in your life that help you create the discipline, is, for example, people say, with the new year, I have these resolutions.
Yeah.
I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to start having a better eating discipline.
Yeah.
I'm going to start going to work early. I'm going to start actually doing work.
Wow, that's planning from
Or
scratch.
it's a joke there. Or somebody, okay, let me start at least pray.
Yeah, true.
Or pray on time.
Yeah.
Anyhow. So they overwhelm themselves with a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
They always want to be idle from day one. I'm going to wake up at this hour, exercise this hour, do the... What I tell people, take it easy. Meaning, start planning small ones and then be disciplined about those small things. When you are confident, it becomes a routine or a habit and you feel good about yourself, treat yourself. Then you move to the second thing. Do not plan immediately strong diet and then tough exercise or a schedule of daily exercise, and then you think you're going to arrive at it. There are certain people who can do it, which is, I wish them all the best. I want them to teach me how they do it. But so I tell people that then what you need to do, for example, you said, next week I want to start exercising. Fine. Say 2 days of the week. If you can achieve 2 days, 1 hour a time, you can improve it to 3 times a week. If you feel good about it, it works with your schedule, add to it.
So it's a gradual process.
It's a gradual. And people do not realize the big impact of making the small changes. For example, the simple thing I repeat about waking up. If you add half an hour earlier to your schedule, will help you do a lot of things, trust me. That half an hour you add will impact your life or that day. Big impact.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're talking about small changes that create big impact. For example, if you say, I'll spend the first 10 minutes when I reach office to contemplate about what is the most important thing, and I will spend 2 minutes writing down what is important to be done. Imagine that impact of 1 or 2 minutes you spend on the rest of your day. It's a huge impact. So apply this example with many other things you want to do.
Yeah.
And this applies to all aspects of, ways of improvement or planning. Because when we talk about planning, we said we can talk about planning to improve in your spiritual, religious aspect of things, academia, career. For example, if you plan to read more, exercise more, then this same technique applies to whatever plan that you have, right?
Yes.
Your Excellency, what about Plan B? I mean, flexibility. Let's go back to flexibility. Should we plan to have a Plan B in our plans? Before you answer that, Your Excellency, we'll just take this phone call. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Yes, who's speaking?
This is Siham.
Siham, ahlan wa sahlan, Siham. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
We're very well, thank you. We would like to hear your contribution. What do you have for us today?
I have a few points that I wanted to participate with.
Yes, please do.
Regarding planning. So the first thing, of course, is to emphasize the importance of planning.
Yes.
But like everything in our religion, you have to be balanced.
Yes.
So in one way, you cannot, of course, float around and just wait for things to happen. Mm-hmm. But also, you can't be so obsessed with the details that you tie yourself in knots.
Yes.
So it's very important to have a plan, but also, as you guys said earlier, to actually have an action plan. What are you going to do about it? If you have no action plan, that it's really a waste of time.
Chaotic, yes.
My husband used to say, if you have a boat but you have no direction, you just go around, and you never get to any destination.
Absolutely.
So this is very important. So it's important to have a very realistic action plan to be able to get somewhere.
So your husband is the wise person in the family.
I think he'll be happy to hear that.
So I think you've given him some credit, maybe.
So that is really the first point, is the really importance of planning. However, it has to be balanced. You cannot go too much in one direction or another. It's very important to have flexibility, because what you don't want to do is miss some very obvious opportunities in your life simply because they were not in your plan.
Yes.
Because one day or another, you will regret them.
That's true. That's true.
So it's very important to have a plan, but keep your eye on opportunities that come across your way and that maybe will actually take you to a better place than where your original plan would have taken you.
Siham, does that mean that we need to take risks?
Of course. You have to take risks, but calculated risks. But also, when you take risks, it's like at work when we do risk assessment. You end up sometimes, of course, with the high risk, you have to have mitigation. But if you don't put your mitigation action in your plan, it will never happen. So your risk will always be there.
Oh,
so you have to have
now we know who's the wise person in the family.
Okay.
You see, this is what wives do. They give some credit to the husband, but actually...
Before they shine.
So that was my second point. My first point is I wanted to actually comment on the point you guys made about the to-do list. I am a little bit of a to-do list crazy, but I have my best friend is my highlighter. Because indeed, it's so easy when you start doing to-do lists to end up with a huge list. But if you don't prioritize it, you really end up in knots. But most importantly, discipline is very important, because a human being likes to have success. We always like to see so many tick boxes, but sometimes just to please that human nature, you might end up ticking a lot of not so important tasks.
Yes.
So for me, highlighting the important ones is very important. Because, yes, I like to see tick boxes, ticking, but if I'm ticking unimportant things and leaving a big task, then I will not actually be happy about it. So it's very important to have that highlighter to be able to prioritize what is important, but most importantly, to be able to achieve that is a discipline. Self-discipline is key. So you should be meticulous and precise, but not obsessed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
My final point, yes, no need to be obsessed. But precision is very good.
Okay.
My final point, and this is a little advice that works for me very well, and some of my friends have tried it also. If you have too many things on your plate, to help you really prioritize and plan properly, I use a lot these brain diagrams. In the office, they laugh at me. They call them ankabut al-tiham. It's like it looks like a spider when it's done.
Yeah.
But the brain diagram, the advantage is you see everything you have on one page. And then it's much easier for you to prioritize, because when you have a to-do list of 3 or 4 pages, it's really, visually, it's difficult to really make sense of it and prioritize it. So when you have an ankabuta or a brain diagram, which everything is on one page, without going to the nitty-gritty, of course, just the first or second level of detail, it really helps you in planning your activities and prioritizing. So this is just a little tip from me that works for me, and I hope it will work with you guys.
Thank you so much, Siham. I just have a question regarding the spider image of the task. Does this work for a daily task, or this is more for a bigger mission or a bigger goal?
It can be as simple or as complicated as you make of it. I mean, I do brain diagrams for everything, for simple little things, just because, for example, I want to do something today. Say I'm, for example, planning a trip. And so quick thing, what I'm going to book, I have to call for the hotel or book for the hotel, the flight. So all for a 1 hour task. I do a little brain diagram. And I do it also for my whole team's planning for the year.
Siham, this is nice tips. And the last tip I will tell you also, that I would draw my comment about your husband, about him being the wise person in the family. So don't tell him that.
Oh, he's listening. He's listening. So please don't say that.
So I tell him now, if he's listening, I would draw it.
He is a very wise man.
He is. He's a wise man.
My salam and regards to him.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siham.
So that was my contribution.
Thank you. Very
much.
valuable. Very valuable points.
Thank you to you and to Rashid as well.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Assalamu alaikum.
This actually, what she said, it triggered to remember one quote. This is good to share about when coming about planning and non-essentials. This great Chinese philosopher once said, "Beside the noble art of getting things done, there is the noble art of leaving things undone." He said, "The wisdom of life consists of eliminating the non-essentials." So this is something, food for thought.
So it's not always about what you need to do. Sometimes it's what you shouldn't do. Things that are nuisance to your life and you need to remove them. If we go back to a single phrase that we used initially, intuition, or maybe gut feeling, how important is that for any planner, be it a personal planner or someone who plans at work? How important it is to use that gut feeling and intuition?
Okay, that gut feeling, actually, how many minutes we have?
We have 2 minutes before the break, and then we can continue later.
We can continue, good. About the gut feeling, actually, I'm reading an interesting book that a friend have recommended called Thinking Fast, Slow. And it talks about the two brains, system 1 and system 2, and exactly at the heart of what you said about what you think is a gut feeling and what is a calculated decision. And I will tell a story from the book to give a tip of what you said about the gut feeling, maybe after the break.
Okay. We have 1 minute before the break, so let's talk a little bit about the writing up.
Yeah.
And it just, what Siham said, it just emphasizes the importance of offloading anything you have onto a piece of paper. Use a spider chart, a spider diagram, mind diagrams, whatever really works for you. To me, I think writing it in a structured way helped me better. If you think writing it, you start centrally and branching out, that will help you. It all depends on you. But what I noticed is that if you see who is planning, I think females are more into planning than men.
Because they're smarter.
I think well, that's very kind of you. I don't
it's not
entirely
kind, actually.
I don't.
They always profit to me, and they always make me think I'm stupid. My wife is she knows that I cannot even listen. So
well, at least I'm being told that I'm stupid by my wife. But
okay,
you know who's smart now.
The guys are being modest right now. Maybe we should break for the.
I think we should break.
Time for a break.
We should break. Okay, dear listeners, we'll break for the call of prayers, and we'll see you in a minute. Dear listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to The Art of Living. You're listening to Radio 90.4 FM, and today's topic is about planning. We finished the show before the break on a very bad note. I don't know why, but I just wanted to have the last say in this. We are smarter than women. I just wanted to say that to feel comfortable.
Whatever makes you happy, Juan.
Inshallah. Your Excellency, it's I can't even talk now. Yeah. We talked about intuition. You wanted to say more about intuition.
Yeah, we're talking about the book, which also explained part of the intuition. So a friend of mine recommended this book, and I'm glad also another friend gave me a copy.
Okay.
So we thank them both. So it talks about the two systems in thinking, which is the spontaneous one, the system which is usually alert. If you see a door, you can open it. It operates, what you call it, auto mode. There is a second system, which is very complex. Sometimes we don't even understand it. And the intuition, gut feeling, what we call gut feeling or intuition, actually it claims that it comes from a very sophisticated calculation from previous experiences that put things together and allow you to give that decision.
Interesting.
And the story I said from the book, one of the early stories of the book, it says a fireman who was leading his squad into a fire, immediately when they were trying to put a fire out, he immediately called them to leave that floor. He entered, within seconds he asked him to leave immediately. And after they left, the whole floor collapsed. Wow. So it's attribute to, and there's many other stories like that of people who really made those decisions. They rescue life, or they rescue themselves, or they avoided certain elements. But it came to know that when he was discussed with this person, or discussion happened, that he felt when he entered that room that the fire did not match the heat, the amount of heat was in the room, that he felt his ear were burning.
Wow.
So he felt the heat was coming from somewhere else, that it came like his intuition told him to leave that area.
Yeah.
And actually that mean is not intuition. Actually your subconscious mind went into very sophisticated thinking and brought a lot of memories and information, put it together. So when actually the underground or the floor beneath that floor was burning before the second floor.
Oh.
And that burning, so he rescued his team because that calculation of this sophisticated calculation to make it. So it could be intuition, but it could be that. But I advise people who are interested in thinking, and it's a best-selling book now when it comes to.
So that was Thinking Fast, Slow.
Yes,
that's the title of the book.
Yes.
No, inshallah. I think I'll go and get this book. Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you for that.
I hope the author will give me some
royalties.
Royalties and commission.
Your Excellency, moving to, so we spoke about short-term planning. We spoke about the steps included or involved in short-term planning. What do you want to tell us about long-term planning?
Okay. It is very good actually if you have goal in your life, you need to write it down first. And your goal shouldn't be modest. And also you shouldn't have only one goal. Write 3 goals, 5 goals, 10 goals. Actually, nobody will charge you for writing goals. It's something free. It's too different between you think in your head you have a goal to achieve and that you actually wrote it down.
Okay.
Because anybody will start writing their goals, trust me, you will not write your goal immediately. Some people will do. They will say rich. Or they say marry rich.
Yes. Yes.
But when you start writing your goal, you need to write it down because you'll scratch sometime that sentence. If you write it in a sentence, you might have to repeat writing 3, 4, 5 times until you reach the sentence you really want to believe you want to be that person or you want to achieve that thing. You have to write it down. Because when you write it, it's not only, it is so many senses with you will work with you to write it. But when you think about it, it's only inside your head. So the importance of writing it down. First, it make a clarity for you. Is that really what you want?
Yeah.
Second, you need to write, let's say you write goals for every aspect of your life. The more important aspect, family, work, self-development, whatever you think is important to you, wealth. So you, in these areas, then you start writing the goals of each one you want to achieve. Of course, you can get sophisticated that the goal you want to achieve in 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, yearly. But my advice is to give a long-term planning, mean goals you want to achieve in 7 years, 5 years, or 10 years, and then you work it down. You said, for example, let's take one that people want to be rich. Some people say, no, I don't want to be rich. I want to be the most religious person. I want to be imam of the religions. Fine. You want to do that? That's very good. We have Wa'il here. He wants to achieve that. But if you want to, for example, be rich, or you don't want to depend on anybody financially, for example, then you should write a number.
Okay, that much detail, like
that much detail. I remember Sheikh Khalfan, Allah yarhamah, peace be upon him. May God mercy be upon him. Sheikh Khalfan used to say that what he regrets, that when he put his target, he achieved beyond it. He wished that he wrote a bigger target to achieve.
MashaAllah.
That's what he regretted. That's what he used to say. So don't be modest.
Okay.
Because goals there is to achieve. So, for example, you want to reach 5 million, 10 million. I'm giving an example again. People who want to marry rich, they should write it down as well. So
Too rich. Well, why not? Dream big.
So if you say you want to reach 10 million, for example. No, it increased. I used to say 5, now it's 10. So if you say 10 million, if it's in 10 years, then you need to work it back of what you want to achieve the next year and so forth. And then once you have that target, you have two ways. Either you start to develop sub-plans, or I'll tell you something else. If you really badly you want to achieve that, because most people who've been asked about what they wrote and what they achieved, they found out that they did a study for graduates, and they followed them after they graduated. They found out that the bigger percentage of people who wrote down what they want to achieve, they achieved it and they crossed it, compared to the people who had it in their head, they haven't wrote it down. And I also advise people, which I learned long time ago, about writing your goals every single day. People think it's too much. It's not too much. If you don't write your goals, or you put it somewhere in which you see it every single day, it's very difficult to achieve it. Because when you write it in front of yourself, and you keep writing it every single day to remind yourself of the 2, 3, or 5 goals you want to achieve, it reminds your subconscious mind. It brings all the other elements around your life towards your objectives. It will help you improve yourself to achieve that objectives. It reminds you what tasks you need to do to achieve that objectives. And even people talk about dua, and I said yes, dua, it's good to say dua, but even in religion, it tells you need to work.
Yes, exactly.
You need to work. You shouldn't just say dua and you expect heaven to send you the miracles.
Exactly.
You said the dua actually is one way of repeating your goals. Even an example in the Islamic religion, the hadith says that repeat your dua. And when you repeat it also, repeat it while you believe it will happen. Be certain.
Absolutely.
And actually that's a teaching to tell you speaking to your subconscious mind before you speaking up. And that subconscious mind repeats it to yourself to know that you really want to achieve it. And that's a secret of dua that people need to remember. But the most important thing about that is make sure you really know what you want. People sometimes, I said, if you don't have goal, how you will score? So if you don't have a clear goal, or you don't know what you want, how you expect to reach there?
So you need to know where you are now and where you want to be, and then what tasks do you need to achieve that goal to reach to where you want to be. So first of all, I think you need to know where you are right now and define where you are, if that's what I understood correctly, and then know where you want to be, and then work it out from there.
Yes, you need to know what you want. A lot of people don't know exactly what they want.
Yeah.
And we avoid, because we gossip a lot. We talk about other people a lot. We talk about so many things. We very good in criticizing others. The one thing we don't do, we don't talk to ourselves. We don't even have that proper moment of talking to ourselves to say exactly what do you want in life, where you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, or exactly if you have that space, do you really contemplate that this is the thing that makes me happy, or this is the things I need to change in my life to make me happy, or make also the people around you happy.
It is very interesting, the power of writing things down and sitting down and contemplating, taking the subject totally outside, the planning. Someone who was going through a turmoil in his own marriage, and he was wanting to make the decision, shall I continue or shall I stop in this marriage? And he actually wrote down, what are the things that I miss in this relationship? What is missing? Yeah. What is it that I really don't get? What is it that I'm doing that I shouldn't do?
Yeah.
And just writing it down, thinking it thoroughly, taking time out with his wife, they sorted that out.
So this shows the power of writing
writing things down and having clarity. So it helps you in a big time when planning things, making big decisions in life. So I think we have, touched upon very important aspects in planning. Of course, an hour is not enough, but time flies, and we have a lot that we need to discuss. But I will leave the last word to my guest and to Lamia.
I just want to say one thing before the floor is all to Your Excellency. And just so that we remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best and the greatest planners. So sometimes we plan our life a certain way, and if things don't work out the way we want, either our plan, there was something fault in the plan, or maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has something better for us. So we should always seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance when we plan. And then submit, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan for us, because at the end of the day, He's the best of planners.
True.
Your Excellency, do you would like to summarize take-home messages to the listeners? What would you say the take-home messages for planning?
I would like to say just a very short few things, not to summarize, but to leave with the audience, and also to remind myself of it. First of all, you should try. My first advice to myself is always, whatever I think is difficult or I want to achieve, I will make the first step. So I'll tell people, take the first step. Second, what you want to achieve, either a day task, weekly, or your life task or goals, it will not harm to write them down. In your phone, in your computer, in your notebook, somewhere. It will not harm you. It will help you clear your thought and understand what you want to achieve. The third one, which is a very key, work hard.
Yes.
Life is about working hard and work hard and work hard and be smart in working hard.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, with that, dear listeners, we would like to end the show. It's been a wonderful show. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the wonderful insight into planning our lives. I've certainly learned a lot of things that I will be using, inshallah, in my own personal life. So from me, dear listeners, Wa'il Al-Harrasi
and Lamia Al-Hajj.
Assalamu alaikum.